Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel, and in this video I'm going to talk about methods. So what kind of method we have in Java? First of all, in Java, we need to know this. In Java, methods can either return a value or not return anything, right? Or not return anything. So what do we got here? Either the method, our method that we are going to create right now, is going to return something or it is not going to return something. So if it is not returning something, we are gonna call it void method. If it is returning something, then we are gonna call it return methods, right? Return methods. So why are we creating a method, right? So maybe you guys think that why are we creating a method? Because in your logic, so think about your logic, and you're creating something, right? You building a framework, right? You're building a framework, and you see that you are repeating yourself. You keep doing the same logic to be able to achieve something at the end of the logic, right? Then you can convert that logic into method. Then you don't have to keep doing it all the time, right? Keep doing it all the time. What are you gonna do? All you have to do is whenever you face with that logic again, just call your method. Then it is going to handle it, right? So how? Let's get started and show you guys how do we create a method, right? And also the first thing is I am on the class level. So this is class level, right? This is my class, and I just created this because I want to show you guys that I am in the class level, right? I'm in the class level. So this is my method, public static void main method, right? What is this? This is actually making me be able to run the Java code, right? Run the Java code. So this is pre-built. This is already method. We are calling it, right? This is already somebody prepared this so we can run our Java code, right? So this is also method. And where am I calling it? I am calling it actually where? Here, right? Inside of the class level, right? Inside of the class level. So, but you are not going to be able to, so let's say grade one. I mean, let's talk about later, but you are not going to be able to, create a method inside of a method, right? There is no nested method in Java, and like all the other programming languages. Okay, so let's get started and create how, and actually tell you guys how to create a method, right? So the first of all, this is gonna be void. Okay, type void, and then give it a name. So let's say this is gonna be good morning, right? Good morning. So put the parenthesis and put the curly brackets, right? Okay, we created our method. So what's gonna happen? There is nothing to return, right? With this method, there is nothing to return with this method. So this method is not going to return anything. So you can make this public. Actually, I didn't talk about the access modifiers. After we talk about access modifiers, we can do that. Okay, this is default. Default is acting like protected in Java. So, okay, what this method is gonna do? This method is gonna print something out, but it is not going to return something, right? Good morning. So since I called it good morning, it is gonna say to me, it is gonna print out something on the console, good morning, right? Good morning. But when this is gonna be executed, that's the point. When this is gonna be executed. So let's execute it. You don't see anything on the console, right? You don't see anything on the console because you didn't call this method. After you create the method, you have to call this method, right? You have to call it. And you are creating it inside of the class level. Class level. So I didn't talk about how do we create an object of the class because that is a part of the actually object-oriented programming, and Java is one of the object-oriented programming languages, right? And that's gonna be actually the next video's topics, right? Next video's topic, how do we create an object of the class? But here I just want to show you guys how do we creating a method, right? Method. So another void method, which is gonna be maybe I can say, doesn't matter, right? Maybe I can call it math, and I can do something in here. It's gonna be in some math, and I'm gonna create int num is you can even, let me see, int a, int b. You can even give it a parameters, right? So here is in this parameters, you can put the condition here. So I'm telling him I'm gonna store two parameters. What are my parameters? Those are going to be integer, right? Those are going to be integer. Give me some. So whenever I call this method, you have to give it a two parameters. What are those? Int a and int b, right? And what is this going to do? What is this going to do? A plus b, math. Actually, you can call it sum, right? You can call it sum. Or if you want to create another one, so let's say sum division, and then I don't know if I spell it correct or not. So division, right? Again, int a, int b, right, is gonna be here. And then what's gonna happen? This method, whenever you call it, whenever you give the value, okay, divide it, right? And a division b, right? So it is gonna divide the value, or you can call this another one, right? Another one, math multiply. I'm gonna call it multiply, which is gonna multiply the numbers. Int a, int b, and then it is gonna give the result. So as you guys see, it is not returning anything, right? I hope you guys are getting that point. It is not returning anything, but it is printing something out, right? Okay, and as you guys see, I'm running it and it is not running, right? We have to call these methods to be able to see what's happening. And the first method is not getting any parameters. So whenever you call this method, you don't have to provide anything, right? You don't have to put any parameters here. But again, I'm telling you guys, the purpose is this. If you're repeating yourself with this math, right? So for example, think about something. You are trying to find the speed of the car or something like that, or how many kilometers like you are taking in 1 mile or some, any kind of math that repetitive in your workflow, then you can do the logic here, and then you can call it, just give the parameters to that method, and then you'll be good to go, right? Okay, so this is how you actually create the voids, right? Void, which is not returning anything, only printing something out, and then return methods, right? Return. So if you are trying to deal, so this is the skeleton of the return, right? Integer, it is starting, you have to decorate. This method is going to return integer. So whatever you start with, if you starting with a string, any data type, it is going to return that one. I'm trying to return something integer, right? Integer. Again, I'm gonna do some. I'm not gonna give it a value. Let's try it that way. I'm gonna call it math, int math. So as you guys see, it is directly complaining. When I put the return here, okay, now it is complaining in the return side. What am I returning here, right? What am I returning here? Again, int num equals 0, right? Int num equals 0. What am I gonna do? I'm gonna return num. As you guys see, I'm not providing any parameters here, right? I'm not providing any parameters here. This is how you create the method, return method. You have to put the return. There is only one difference. This is not going to return anything. You don't have to store, whenever you call this method, you don't have to store any variable into another variable. But when you call this method, either you're going to put this in system.out.println, so it can print whatever it is returning, or you need to store it in a variable, right? You need to store in a variable. So this math is actually just returning 0, right? This math is actually just returning something. Int sum, right? In sum, again, I'm gonna do the sum here, and I'm gonna give it a value int a, int b, right? Int a, int b, again, it is complaining. Return, right? I'm gonna return something. Okay. Oh, I actually, it is complaining about this because we duplicate, it's gonna be duplicate someone, right? Someone. So what is this gonna do? What is this gonna do? So either you can do this. There is two ways. A plus B, right? It is gonna return A plus B. You don't have to do anything else, right? You don't have to do anything else. Maybe you might wanna. No, you don't. You don't wanna do that. But there is another way. Int, again, sum equals a plus b, right? A plus B. Again, as you guys see, it's not complaining right now. But we have this outside here. We have this here. Why it is not complaining right now? I'm gonna talk about those, right? Because one of them is instance variables right now. One of them is local variable. This is local variable, which is always gotta be in a block of code, in a constructor or in a method. We call them local variables, right? We call them local variables. But I'm gonna make a video about that. Local variables, instance variables, static variables. We'll be talking about those. But right now, we don't need to talk about it, right? Because it is not complaining right now because it's inside of the block of code and it is not bothering outside of the block of code, right? Outside of the block of code. So here, these are instance variables. Okay, so this method is gonna return a plus b, and also I can put the sum here, right? I'm gonna return sum. Again, integer division, integer division. I'm gonna put it here and int a, int b, and then return something to me, right? Return something to me. So again, as you guys see, I can just directly put here a division b, right? It is gonna return a division b in division because there is division upside, right? Upper we have the division. It is complaining because you cannot have the same name in the same line, right? In the actually same area, right? In this here, because we have already some division system, blah blah. Okay, we cannot have the same name. Now it is gonna divide the parameters that I will be providing the parameters whenever I call this method. Okay, so this method is gonna return something. All right, so let's say, okay, but I don't want to create integer because I'm dealing something with string, right? Something I'm dealing with the strings. So what's gonna happen then? Okay, then so let's say maybe length. I mean, they already created, right? Um, um, we don't need to do that, but first letter of. So whenever, so think about the logic that I need to get the first letter or the last letter, last index or the first index, or maybe middle, something like that. Maybe whenever I call this method, I need to build something that whenever I call this method, it's supposed to give me something, right? So maybe I will try to. There is a substring method, right? It's already there, but substring is, we can get the length, but you might want to get the not the total length, but you might want to get the divided by 2, right? Something like that, right? I just trying to build something because I mean I need to see the requirements, right? Based on the requirements, you always build your logic. But right now I'm just trying to do it in my mind. But let's say sub, right? Let's say sub. Okay. So what's gonna happen? I'm gonna take. So this method is gonna return. Actually, this method is gonna return not the string. Well, let's do something with the string, right? Let's do something with the string. It's gonna return some string. Then I can give it. I need string parameters here. String a. Okay. Return, right? Return. Okay. So we will be returning string. We have to return string. So we have a string here already, but I'm gonna whenever I get the string, but I need to concat it, right? I need to. So let's say I'm creating another string here. A string sub1. You can even do sub equals a dot. Look at this. A dot concat. A dot concat method. So what I'm doing here is think about the logic that I always have to add the method at the end of my string, right? Then you can call it, right? You can call this directly. Just give me your string. I'm telling Java to, hey, give me the parameters. What do you need to do? Give me the parameters. And if you want to concat something at the end of your method, I mean at the end of at the end of this string, then I will handle it. And returning the new string here, right? Returning new string here. Give me the parameters. I will update it with the concat, and then I will provide you something. So now I want to show you guys actually one more thing. Int uh, middle index. Let's say in middle index, like none of the methods are providing a middle index, right? No, none of it. Then string a, right? String a and return. I'm just doing it just because, I don't want it to complain all the time. Just put the return here, just put the b, and you only see the problem here. But here, so since it is going to return integer, whatever the data type you're giving it is supposed to return that one. If it is integer, integer. If it is string, string, right? So this time it is returning integer, right? And also it is complaining. So num actually middle index, right? This is middle index. So whatever I do here, it's supposed to return middle index. So how do I get the length, right? How do I get the length? The length is gonna tell me, right, the length total. But our index, right, our last, how do we find the last index? So first of all, we learn it with the loop, right? A dot length minus 1 is giving us the last index, right? This is the last index. Okay, how can I get the middle index? If I divide it 2, I can get the middle index, right? This is the last index. Then I have to put them in the parentheses, because the parentheses is gonna has the is gonna execution first, right? Priority of the execution is the parentheses first. Then I'm gonna divide it 2. So what happening here? What is happening here? Okay, this logic is all the time. Whenever I call this, I'm gonna provide it my string. I'm gonna provide it my string, and then what's gonna happen? It is gonna give me the middle index, not the last index, not the first index, but the middle index. How to get the last index? We can get the last index. A dot length. Length is already pre-built method, right? Length is already pre-built method. Let's see what's happening with it. Length, public integer. So public is one of the access modifiers, which actually you can call it from anywhere. Anywhere, it is public. There's gonna be a protected, private, and default, right? So return value that the length and the bigger than. I don't know. Again, this is happening. So what is it gonna return, right? Returns the length of this string. What is the string? This string, right? Value that length. So the length is equal to the number of a href character, blah blah blah. I don't care about that, right? I only care about what is this doing, right? What is this doing? Okay, so here the length is returning me a length of the string, and what I'm trying to do, I'm trying to get the last index of it and then dividing by 2 so it can give the middle index. Okay, this. Seriously. Proceed. Okay, so now we successfully created a method which is going to return us middle index, right? Middle index. So this is actually, these methods are starting point, right? Even if you delete this, nothing is going to happen, right? Delete this. You might want to call this class from another class, right? You might want to call this class because in a framework, you might want to keep your pre-built methods in somewhere else, right? Common methods. Let's say common methods. You're gonna create the class which you're gonna call common methods, and you're gonna extend that class, right? That is gonna be inheritance, right? I'm gonna talk about those, but this is so today's class. In this class, I'm not gonna call it because you guys don't know. You guys don't know how to create an object of the class, and then I'm gonna talk about those whenever we learn how to create an object of the class. Then we are going to be able to call these methods. Because if you are creating instance variables or methods, right, these are all own class method, right, on the class level. So you are going to be able to call these, since these are not static variables, you have to create an object of the class to be able to call these methods. But we will learn about that. But this is starting point of how to actually create a method, void method, and the return method, so we can move to that point, right? We can move to that point, but because if I have to talk about the object creation of the object methods, then that doesn't make sense, right? Because we didn't know how to create a method. Once you create an object of the object of the class, what are you gonna do? what are you gonna call? You don't even know what is instance variables. You don't even know what is local variables. You don't even know what is static variables. Right? I just wanna go step by step. And first of all, we need to learn how to create a method, which is two types of method. There is two types of method. One is void, and the one is return. Thank you very much for watching, and I see you guys in the next video. Please subscribe to the channel. Thank you very much.